Hey, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. In today's discussion video, we're going to talk about, is the upcoming format going to be healthy or not? So this is something that a lot of people in the community, especially a lot of big names in the community as well, they're really worried that the upcoming format is going to be very unhealthy. It's going to be very dominated by maybe like 1 to 2 decks. And I'm going to use this video to kind of address that, give my opinions. And of course, these are my opinions and my kind of findings from testing the upcoming format, you know, post banlist format essentially. So we're going to talk about that in this video. Before we get into that though, if you guys are new to the channel, hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button would be amazing of you guys. If you guys are looking for a community to talk about anything Dragon Ball Super related, whether it's help on your decks or just talk about the game in general, we have a Discord for that down in the description below. Check that out. And finally, if you guys are longtime fans of the channel and want to help me out, you guys can consider supporting me on Patreon. I post a lot of competitive articles there, a lot of competitive things for you guys to read up on, and it really helps me just keep bringing you guys this content that you know and love. So thank you guys for that. With that being said, we'll get into this discussion video. So any of you guys that have seen my prior videos, you know that I was on this kind of thought bubble, this kind of thought train that Gogeta 7 after the storm hit or any kind of type of storm ban was going to take the meta by storm, or is going to take the meta by storm. And we're going to be seeing that. The first events post banlist are going to be Vegas and Atlanta the weekend of February 16th, so about 2 weeks from the time of posting. And a lot of people are worried that it's going to be a Gogeta 7 marathon. It's going to be nothing but Gogeta 7 and other degenerate strategies. Like I've heard people saying that it's going to be Shenron-Gogeta like is the #1 deck. It's going to be like almost tier 0. Only counter to that is going to be Chain Zeno and that whole kind of thing, right? And I was once on this thought bubble, but I mentioned this before, so if you've seen my videos, you know a little bit what I'm talking about. But when I went to Pro Play Tour Atlantic City, it showed me that the format is not as bad as I thought, right? So when they released Borgos and striving to be the best on Goku, I really thought that was going to be the end of it for aggro. I mean, I thought that like the mid-range decks, they have what they need to get into the late game. They have what they need to get into their win con, and it's just going to be over for aggro. I was proven wrong by that, and I played Broly Lineage, which relies heavily on the Bardock Goten package, and Goten's gone now, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But you know, playing that deck and doing as well as I did and playing against Shenron all day, it showed me that like, okay, I was a little preemptive in what I said. I'm glad that I was proven wrong, because it just showed me that the game is in a better state than many people think it is. So I want to use this video to kind of just talk about that, give my opinions. You guys feel free to drop your comments down in the comments below. That's what this is about. This is all about a debate. This is not about like bashing anyone for their ideas or just like calling anyone stupid or anything like that. This is just like opinions and ideas and what you guys have found in your testing. So we'll get into this. So I think to really talk about this, I think we need to come to an agreement of a term of an unhealthy format. Now, I think people can define this differently depending on your opinions and what you think an unhealthy format is. But personally, an unhealthy format to me is a tier 0 format where the best deck has no clear counters, so you have to play that deck. I think about in this game specifically, I think back to the Red Blue SS3 format, which was pretty much all of ARG Invitational this past summer, and I think about Mecha Frieza format. Those are two formats where realistically Rogue is very unplayable. It's very unlikely you'll do well with a Rogue deck, and like some insane amount of percentage of top cut is back in those formats. It was Mecha Frieza and SS3, so like that's like what a tier 0 format tends to be. Tier counts actually do adhere to like a percentage of top cut, so like it's some absurd percentage of top cut. I think for tier 0, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like 60% or more of top cut is one deck. I'm pretty sure that's considered tier 0. Maybe I'm wrong with that. If I am wrong with that, definitely correct me down in the comments below. But I think it's some absurd number. If one deck is meeting 60% or 70%, some absurd amount of top cut, that's considered tier 0. And to me, that's an unhealthy format. Even if the mirror match is very skillful, like some people could argue that the Mecha Veggie mirror match was skillful. Some people argue that the Red Blue SS3 mirror match was skillful. Even if that's skillful, to me that's still an unhealthy format, because only 1 to 2 decks are viable depending on like different variations. But to me that's an unhealthy format. What do I think we're moving into? Even post banlist, even with the introduction of striving and even with the introduction of Borgos, I think we're still going to be jumping into a pretty balanced format where you have a lot of different decks, a lot of different archetypes, and a lot of different play styles are able to do well. Let me talk about why I think that. So Gogeta 7 Shenron, I think without a shadow of a doubt is going to be the deck to beat. Without a doubt, I think it's probably one of the strongest decks in the format, because any mid-range deck it has an incredibly great matchup in. However, it does have its fair share of tough times. I will say that, because we did see that with the Janemba mirror match in the finals of Pro Play Tour Atlantic City. Janemba can hold its own against a deck like Shenron-Gogeta, which is really good. Those two decks are both pretty much untouched from the ban list. I mean, Janemba lost on Unyielding Spirit Trunks, but that wasn't really an integral part of the strategy anyway. So just that alone right there is already starting to disprove that notion of unhealthy format, at least according to my definition of an unhealthy format, granted. But then people, bring up, okay, it's just Gogeta 7 or it's Chain Zeno. Chain Zeno is known to be a relatively good counter to Gogeta 7 decks, because Gogeta 7 at the end of the day is a combo deck, and with the Chain Zeno combo introducing variants to that matchup, it can be much harder for Gogeta 7 to meet its win condition. They can't establish their Figure of Majesties, they can't draw into their fusion pieces, they can't draw into their win con, what have you. And that's another valid point. Chain Zeno, in my opinion, is a degenerate strategy. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's way too powerful to be able to answer anything in the game. However, that's a third deck that is powerful enough to compete in the format. Now, this is another thing that I'll talk about that I might get in trouble for saying this, but I think it's important for everyone to know this, so I'm going to mention it. Aggro is still going to be strong in the game. In my opinion, and from my testing, it's been doing very, very well. You guys all know Storm was the boogeyman of the previous format. Like, Storm prior to Clash of Fates was the undecided best deck, in my opinion, and I think the results speak for that, and I think that a lot of people would agree with me in saying that Storm was the best deck before Clash of Fates and before the ban list. Now, post ban list, what do we have? We have Borgos, we have Striving to be the best Son Goku, and we have the banning of Goten and the limiting of Unyielding Spirit Trunks. So now I'm going to say this is my opinion, this is what I found in testing, so bear with me, don't kill me for this. Bardock into Dependable Goku or Bardock into Videl is still one of the most high value aggro plays you can make into this game, even with the loss of Goten. The loss of Goten means that you're drawing slightly less cards. I mean, a considerable amount less cards. You have Videl to make up for those cards, albeit it's not a selective search, but you do get to pump up your other battle cards by a 5k, which has value on its own. And you have the Dependable Goku, which is just a 15k beater you drop for 1 energy. The problem with Storm originally was 1 energy turned into 2 attacks and a lingering body on board. Now, Goten's relatively small, so Goten can be somewhat easy to clear, but now it's still 1 energy, 2 attacks. You're only drawing 1 card instead of 2 because of the loss of Goten if you swap into the Dependable Goku. If you swap into Videl, you get the same amount of card advantage, but 1 less attack. So I will say this, don't get me wrong, Storm and Aggro definitely take a hit from this ban list. They're definitely weaker in power, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. But what I'm trying to say is it's still very, very playable. 1-2 swap, Bardock into X swap target is still going to be very, very strong, and it still has an incredibly good Shenron matchup. Shenron, they get overwhelmed. They can't deal with the turn 2. Turn 2, it's super easy to drop 3 or 4 battle cards on the board if you're playing, for example, Broly Lineage, like my deck list that I got top 32 with at Pro Play Tour Atlantic City. By turn 2, it's very easy to have 3 to 4 battle cards on the board. By Shenron's turn 2, they can't answer that. The best thing they're doing on turn 2 is hitting objection, and maybe, just maybe, world piecing out a Porunga to clear your board. They had to have awakened turn 2 though, which the typical awakened turn for Shenron's turn 3. I'm just giving you guys the statistics here. For 1 energy, getting 2 swings in on a Shenron, whether that Dependable Goku is drawing you a card or not, is still incredibly powerful. Now, they do have Borgos. Broly Storm doesn't necessarily care about that card, so that's almost a non-factor. I do think their Rudigarn variant of Storm is much, much weaker than it once was. That might even be borderline unplayable. I can't really talk to that too much because I haven't been testing Rudigarn Storm specifically, but I will say that with the hits and with Borgos being a card, I will say that variant of the deck is probably a lot more unplayable. But talking about Broly Storm specifically, an area that I have a lot of expertise in because I've been testing the deck a lot, Borgos, non-factor. Striving to be the best Son Goku, very, very annoying card to deal with as a Broly Lineage, Broly Storm player. Don't get me wrong. However, there are main deck answers to it. Like Frieza Biding His Time turned out to be a much better answer than I originally thought it would be. Originally, I thought it was a card that Storm decks would have to jam into their deck and hinder their own consistency. While it does slightly lower consistency, it's a good answer card to have, especially in a Broly variant of the deck where you have a lot of ways to beat over it once you rest it. Your leader still pluses cards. That was one of the problems, right? Rudigarn, if they had to attack the Striving after using the Frieza Biding His Time, you wouldn't get the plus anymore. Broly doesn't care about what he attacks at. You rest that Striving, you attack with the Broly, you still draw 2 cards, which is really, really awesome. So that's another, plus going for that. So yeah, striving is annoying, but there's answers to it, and that's one of my big things about the format right now, which I'm really happy about. Everything in the format realistically has an answer. I mean, look at Chain Attack Zeno, you've got Cold Bloodlust, you got Preemptive Strike. Look at anything like Figure Majesty or At All Cost Vegeta. At All Cost Vegeta has a Borgos answer. Shenron Figure Majesty has a removal answer. Objection has Dende, and Force Suggestion Mass Sand. Even Gogeta 7, as not great as this answer is, Gogeta 7 has answers, or an answer, I guess, in the form of the 5-drop of Frieza Swap, which is actually a meta-relevant deck, right? That card, that battle card, answers Gogeta 7. Gogeta 7 gets negated by that card. It's an answer that exists, and it's actually meta-relevant in the format. You can call it an answer, you can call it playing around it, you can call it whatever you want, but 1-2 swap is still a great deck, still has a very favorable matchup against Shenron-Gogeta, even with the post-ban list, even with Clash of Fates. This is what my testing has shown me, and these things that I'm bringing up to you guys, these talking points I'm bringing up to you guys, is a big reason why I feel like the next format, the format following the ban list, is still going to be very fair and maybe not fair, but pretty balanced in terms of you can play a lot of different decks. Of course, there are powerful cards. Of course, there are blowouts. Of course, there are very bad matchups, and when you run across that matchup, it's going to be hard to win. It's very likely you're going to get beat unless you're prepared for the matchup with your sideboard and you know how to play the matchup perfectly. There are very bad matchups for decks. That just happens. However, I do think that there's a vast amount of decks in the format that can play that revolve around different play styles that will make it a varied metagame. You want to play aggro? I think there's a deck for you. You want to play control? I think there's a deck for you in terms of like Chain Zeno. You want to play mid-range, just drop your win con, win the game, you've got Gogeta 7. You want to play mill, you've got mill. I think that there's a good amount of decks in the format right now where I don't think people need to be too worried. Now, people, I'm guilty of this. I'm not going to crucify anyone for this. You know, post your opinions on Facebook, do what you got to do. I don't necessarily like seeing the arguing or necessarily seeing the name calling, the bashing. I wish that would stop a little bit because it's just not necessary. It's a really bad way to represent an argument. You know, if you think X is busted or you think X needs to be banned, getting really offensive about it and starting to name call people and just devalue someone just because of their opinion is a really bad way to go about an argument. So I just want to get that little piece out there. That's just my personal belief, my personal opinion. But yeah, guys, I think the format's moving into a good space. I think that there's going to be a good variety of decks, and I don't think we need to worry about the format being unhealthy. What I want to say to you guys is give it a chance. Have your opinions. You're totally entitled to them. Like I said, just try not to bash anyone. Try not to, you know, devalue anyone. And be open to being wrong. If you're completely dead set on the format is going to be garbage and like it's going to be tier 0, it's going to be Gogeta Shenron, no matter what, just be open to being wrong. Hope that you're wrong, because who wants an unbalanced format, right? Who wants an unhealthy format? Hope that you're wrong. Be open to being wrong. Like I always am. Like I completely admit I was on that train. Shenron-Gogeta, #1 best deck, undefeatable, this and that. I was open to being wrong, and Pro Play Tour Atlantic City proved me wrong, at least in my own eyes. So I wanted to say be open to being wrong and extensively test. Try not to make baseless claims. Like I said before, I haven't tested the Rudigarn Storm variant myself, but I'm basing that off of my predictions that it's not going to be as powerful as something like Broly Storm. But I will, once again, open to being wrong because I haven't tested that deck extensively since the ban list. So that's just what I wanted to say, guys. I think with the format's moving into a fine spot, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think this format is going to be anything resembling like Mecha Frieza or SS3. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, what you guys think about my talking points. Let me know your opinions. Like I said, keep it civil. That would be really greatly appreciated, guys. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Joey. This is Cross with TCG. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the end card, and thank you so much for sitting through that, because honestly, I'm just doing this until they make a Digimon trading card game. So if you like Dragon Ball Super for some reason, give it a sub up above, maybe check out some of our other content, and do not forget, Digimon is way better than Pokemon. With that being said, we will see you next time.